Hi everyone. I had a request come in to do a more basic Lucet tutorial, so I wanted to do one that just uses one color and one strand of yarn. This is a Pima cotton that I picked up. It's probably 3 or 4 ply, just a worsted weight yarn. It's really nice. It's easy on the hands. I'm going to start my braids with a slip knot. I know a lot of people prefer to do this weaving back and forth method, which you'll find in a lot of Lucette tutorials or on videos. I find the slip knot just works better for me, so that's how I do it and how I'm going to show it. So you slide that slip knot over one side of your Lucette fork, and you're going to pull the loop up over your end, pull the loop over the other, and you're kind of going back and forth, almost doing a crochet stitch if you're used to that, with how you put your yarn over and then pull a loop up and over. And that's really the basics of it. So it's a pretty simple little device to make quick, long pieces of yardage. It might take you a little bit to get the tension right. So just keep that in mind as you're working on it. It also, I found, until you can get enough yardage to kind of go down into the hole on my Lucette fork that I have, or be able to tension it better and hold it with your fingers on the end rather than pinching that little tail string, it's a little bit harder to keep your tension even. So don't stress too much about it. If you're using aglets for your lacing, it'll probably get sucked up into that if your tension's just a smidge off right here. Now, once you get about, I'd say 3 inches or so of cording, at least with my favorite Lucette fork, that's enough for me to be able to slide it all the way down and tension the string for the rest of my time with my fingers along the back side of the handle. If you're using a Lucette that's just a giant U, you can probably do this with about 2 inches. You just want it long enough to reach from wherever you're working your loops down to where you can pinch and hold the cording. And you'll notice how much faster, this is all real time, I didn't speed it up, but it's going so much faster to be able to do my cord after I get some tension on it, even if my fingers do slip every once in a while. So one of the big reasons I absolutely love this particular style of cord making is I can make long bits of yardage without having to stop and pause, but it's also easy enough and simple enough that I can put this down and come back to it later. So if I'm on the go, I can use this as a project. My understanding is that there's a lot of people in history that used to do this as well, where they would keep it on them, work on it when they had time between other tasks, and then put it back down. Because let's face it, if you do historical costuming, you always need a little bit more of a piece of lace. I tend to keep one of these in my kit when I go camping. Just in case I have something break, I can usually find some string and braid up another piece of lacing really quickly with this method. So because this cord works so quickly, I actually ended up doing my entire drawstring in, I think, about 2 hours. Now, granted, I've been practicing with the Lucette on and off for years, so I've got some speed. Again, I'm not doing this in double time or anything. I'm just showing you clips of my progress as I work on it. But to finish it off, I ended up just cutting the cord after I kind of figured out it was most of the way there, and I grabbed some extra string off of my ball and cut the yarn. You could theoretically keep measuring the string for how long you need it, and then cut the length of quicker. I wasn't super concerned about a basic length or an exact length. I just knew that I needed it to be at least a certain measurement, and if it was a little longer than that, that's totally fine. One of the other things that's amazing about this is once you get a real tactile feel for it, you can do this in low light settings because you're not watching for different pieces weaving back and forth. You're really just pulling one loop over the other again and again and again. So I've done this by campfires where I've got low light, but I can trust my fingers to kind of feel where I need them to go. And I've also done this by candlelight at different events or if we've had a power outage. I really needed something to do with my hands. Have you ever used a lucette before? I would love to hear what you all find and what you use this for. I personally use it for lacing and occasionally creating trim, and I prefer the lucette style that has the handle on it. I think it's also called a cording fork in some sources. I know there are earlier styles where it's just this U shape. That's actually more typical of some of the Norse findings from the early medieval period. So, do you have a favorite style? I would love to chat more about lucettes with y'all down in the comments section. Be careful as you get towards the end of your string of overdoing your tension and keeping things too tight. We do, at least I like to try and weave my string back and forth as many times as I can to get the most yardage, but at the end of the day, you want to keep your string consistent so it doesn't break unevenly somewhere. So rather like making a slip knot all on its own, you're going to loop the yarn over, but when you're doing that last loop, you're going to let the string come through and pull it straight. So you'll let one of these sides that almost creates a slip knot kind of just go tight. And then you'll pull that piece of yarn through the other loop side so that you can secure your lucette. So again, just a couple of the basic things to remember. Keep your tension even as much as possible. Every once in a while, if you're setting stuff down and picking it up, you might have a small blip in your cord. You're going to use a fork, some yarn, and some scissors for this style. And check out this other video that I have where we make a two-tone braid if you're interested in more lucette.